What is up, Impact Nation? Welcome to this kind of a special episode of the Anthem of Impact Wrestling Show. I am Jason. Today, I'm going to go over a little bit of AEW for a little change of pace. I'm not somebody that watches AEW all the time. I try to watch whenever I can. Sometimes just, I will watch other shows and stuff like that, and I just never get around to watch my DVR versions of AEW, but wanted to give, I started watching a couple episodes going into this last pay-per-view, this on Saturday, Double or Nothing, and so I decided to go ahead and order the pay-per-view, give it a shot. A lot of their pay-per-views, they do a really good job, and just put out some really killer matches. There's a lot of things I was looking forward to with this. And overall, I think the show was actually really good. I'd probably give it like a B minus, C plus type of a show. It was fun. But I think the same problem I'm having with this specific show is one of the problems I've kind of had with AEW as a company almost, period. And it seems like there's just something missing, and I can't really put my finger on it. Because, it's not like they do anything that's just bad, but it just seems like they're missing something. And the more and more like I watch different review shows on YouTube that review AEW, I think something that gets brought up actually quite often, and I started going, I think that is it. And it's like whenever AEW was started, there was this promise of this different company, and if you look at who was in charge of it, the Bucks, Omega, Cody, some of that stuff and what they were doing, how they became successful, how the Elite became so successful, the Bullet Club stuff became so successful, was because it was different, but it was, recognizing something that was popular in the past. They brought it to the future, to the present, and they kind of made it just a little bit different. They made it their own, and they made it cool again. And I think that's something that they've fallen just short with this new AEW. I didn't think they would be exactly like New Japan, but I figured, because that's what they talked about, the rankings. They're going to try to make it feel more like a sport, and all that kind of stuff. And they really haven't done that. It is kind of like a mixture between 1999 WCW mixed in with like 2010, 2011, 2012 time frame of TNA. And the reason why I say that is, they started with a good group of people that they have found on the indies, people that they have found at some of the other smaller places, to non-WWE places that people have wrestled. Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, all those kind of PWG, all those different type of places. They found these people and they brought them in with a lot of promise of really developing some people. And I think maybe the fact that, like Cody and, I think all four of them are on the creative team. They do help book the show. And I think they didn't want to step in and feel right off the bat that they're booking themselves to get over. And I get what they were coming from by not wanting to have that perception. But I think that was the wrong decision. Reason why is, there's a reason why everybody followed you guys to AEW. Because you guys were the stars. Cody, Hangman Page. I think if they would have had Hangman beat Jericho night one, I totally get why you want to put that belt right away on Jericho. I do get that. I don't necessarily think that one was the wrong decision. But I also think if they would have had Page in a good, long, physical, hard-fought bout, beat Jericho and be your first AEW champion, the Young Bucks would have won the tag titles, stuff like that. Kenny Omega, his story's kind of been a little all over. It's just these little different things that I think that they kind of chose to stray away from, so then they wouldn't have the perception of they just created this company to book themselves as champs and book themselves over, has also kind of hurt them, because they should have been the initial champion guys that then put those other guys over. A guy like Shawn Spears that they brought in, and they made him look really like he was going to be a prominent player right off the bat, and then he, has a lot of good kind of back and forth build with Cody, just for him to lose to Cody and then do nothing, right? I mean, just MJF, he's still kind of like just right there at the bottom, like he's like right underneath where everybody else is, as far as like the top guys go. You look at like their tag team division is supposed to be the best division, right? Everybody keeps saying that it's the best tag division in all of wrestling, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's being misused. I have a big problem with LAX, or formerly known as LAX, Santana and Ortiz. Going into AEW, whenever they left Impact Wrestling, they were in my opinion, they were the best actual tag team in all of professional wrestling. I think Young Bucks were definitely right behind them. You have the Revival out there. At the time, American Alpha was even doing some really good things. Obviously, in Impact Wrestling, you had the Lucha Bros also with them. Lucha Bros was one of the top. So you had both the Lucha Bros and LAX go to AEW. So you have the 3 top tag teams go in the whole world in one company. And LAX basically was nothing more than just some lackeys for Jericho. Pretty much. Look, I'm not saying that they made a bad decision going to AEW. Not at all. Man, go do you. Do what makes you happy. I'm hoping that they're super happy with what they're doing now. Just as a fan, my critique would be, man, this sucks. I would almost rather them be back in Impact facing the North again. Facing guys like the Deaners, like Triple XL. That's just kind of like almost what I would rather see them do. But, again, you have other things. Somebody like Allie. What's Allie doing? Man, what is Allie doing? She should be up there. Their women's division is definitely struggling. I think that the Chris Statlander and Penelope Ford match, again, I haven't seen all these matches, so take, what I'm saying with a grain of salt, and that is, I think that they're there, they're close, but that match was probably one of the better ones I've seen. I see a lot that's sloppy, and I think that happens with having so many Japanese female wrestlers and some Americans, and I think maybe they're just not clicking there with the different kind of styles, and it looks more clunkier than it probably should be, but nonetheless, it's there. But there's several different examples across the board on things that are just falling short of probably where they should be, and I think they'd be in a much better spot right now. If they might have done a couple different things, because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, everybody's touting AEW like they're this next big awesome thing, but the truth of the matter is, if you look at these ratings week after week, and they're tied with NXT, or they're close to within NXT, and I get it, some of the numbers are, sometimes they'll have the numbers of 800,000 or 900,000. They've even hit, I think, 1 million viewers initially, but it's, from ones that I see on Twitter that I can think of off the top of my head, a lot of them are the 7s, the 6s, the 5s, the 4s, as far as 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 stuff, okay? And really, that's not far off from whenever Impact was on freaking Destination America and Pop and Pursuit. Pursuits were actually where they really fell way off, obviously. Even whenever Impact was, or at that time they'd be TNA, was on Spike and making a lot of good numbers and getting in the millions or getting in the 800s, getting in the 900s, they were never getting credit for that. For being this really, really good alternative to WWE. They were never put on the pedestal that AEW is right now. And this is not coming from a guy that hates AEW. I really want to like it. I really want to like it, because there are a lot of the nostalgia strings being tugged on me with it being on TNT, Tony Schiavone being there, man, and just it felt like WCW because that's what I grew up with. I grew up on WCW. I did watch some WWF, but I was the guy that watched Nitro, but then would check WWF while it was on commercial. Um, I would never flip over to WWF if WCW was currently on. Like I was WCW first. If I ever got my parents to let me order a pay per view growing up, it was WCW. It was never WWF. So again, I want to like AEW so much. There's just something missing. I'm not quite sure. But then since I am now such a diehard Impact Wrestling fan, since I've been watching with the TNA days and everything else, um, like I also can't help but let that outside thing of the wrestling world, the wrestling Twitter, the wrestling community, whatever you want to call it, YouTubers, dirt sheets, whatever. Like, whenever I would watch them review this show, actually, whenever I would watch them going in, like doing their prediction shows going into Double or Nothing. Um, Sorry, guys, this is definitely going to be a AEW rant, not necessarily an AEW review. I might go over a couple things, but not a whole lot. But yeah, uh, going in, it's like I haven't even been watching it this much, and like none of them were calling for like Brian Cage to be the mystery guy. And I'm like, guys, we've known this for a while. He was supposed to be at last year's Double or Nothing, and you know, uh, Impact kind of was like, no, you're not going to do their Double or Nothing show, and then finally get the belt on him. And then last January, whenever he was supposed to be in a match with RVD at Hard to Kill back in January, it ended up being kind of a squash match because, well, Impact knew that he was already getting ready to sign with AEW and they weren't going to keep him around. So why give, they were like, all right, fine, we'll have RVD squash you. Done. Bye. I mean, it was even reported on that day and they still couldn't get any of that shit right. I kept saying it. I was tweeting it out. I'm like telling everybody that I could. I'm like, man, it's gonna be Brian Cage. How do these people not understand this? And these are the guys that watch this show week after week after week, and all they wanted to say it was gonna be like Drew Gulak or maybe it's Flip Gordon or something like that. And no, it wasn't gonna be that. And of course, it wasn't. It was Brian Cage, and they're pushing him to the moon, of course. They brought in a lot of WWE guys. And, the Brody Lee thing's just not quite hitting, right? And I do see some people kind of throwing out some of that shade and stuff, but overall, it's nowhere close to whenever, Impact would bring in a guy. And it's gotten so bad that now it's like Impact can't even really look at a WWE guy anymore because they're going to get shit on and saying, no, you're just going to grab this person. Even by Impact fans. It's like, no, look, we're all wrestling companies. They're all wrestlers. They all need a place to work. Doesn't matter where they came from. Okay? They need a place to work. And if they choose Impact and Impact wants that person, cool, bring them on. And hopefully they'll have a really good run. Hopefully they can rejuvenate themselves. They can change things up. They can keep learning and all this stuff. That's, I think, where character development's really lacking in today's wrestling. In this era of wrestling, this is why character development is lacking. Is because it's like this unwritten thing that you can only really work at WWE. And once you get to WWE, now you can no longer wrestle anywhere else. If that was the case back in the day, you wouldn't have a Mick Foley or, Mankind and all that stuff. You'd still be sitting around with Cactus Jack. And he would never develop. Never try anything else. You would have had a Kane. All right? You would have just had Isaac Yankem. You would have never had an Undertaker. Well, because he was already at WCW. And you know what? Me and Mark Calaway was kind of working, so why would he just accept Undertaker? You would never had a Stone Cold Steve Austin because he was stunning Steve Austin, and he was doing a hell of a job at WCW. So, he should have stayed stunning Steve Austin in the WWF. But no, they developed, they changed, they took risks. They really took time and were able to work different places and hear from different people and different agents and different producers and everything else. And they kept developing their character. They kept developing their work as a professional. And you don't see that a whole lot now. And I'm not blaming any specific people or anything for it. It's just kind of the way, it's just kind of the way the atmosphere of the wrestling community in this era is right now. And yeah, I kind of went on a long rant about that, but anyway, going back on to some of the whenever I was watching some of these reviews, and whenever they're talking about it, they were talking about like, man, in this time we really needed a show like Double or Nothing. Just a good fun show and really good matches, and wow, that Stadium Stampede, man, that cinematic type of match, how awesome is that? Like, as an Impact Wrestling fan, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from what AEW did on this show, but this is an Impact Wrestling channel, and I'm trying to come from this perspective of it frustrates you as an Impact Wrestling fan. It really, really does. It frustrates the hell out of you because Impact's doing it. And it's not like they're on a shitty network anymore, man. They're on Access TV. All right, where New Japan Pro Wrestling was. I don't know. It's really annoying because Impact does these cinematic matches. And they've been doing it for a while. Personally, I think they've done it the best. Now, yes, whenever it first got started, it was under, Billy Corgan, with, Paradise would be helping produce that stuff, and Borash and Abyss, and obviously Matt and Jeff and Reby Hardy, who had a lot to say with all that stuff. Do not get me wrong. But whenever they left, Impact didn't drop it. I don't think there's been any other cinematics that haven't been at least as good or as creative. Jimmy Jacobs has been doing a great job with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I don't know who else works on it, but I know he works with a lot of like the Dead Realm stuff. And I think it's been great. It's been hilarious. It's been really good. And those are the type of gimmicks you can get away with doing things like the Undead Realm and, Father James Mitchell and Kevin Sullivan showing up as the devil and, legit like Ali going through and just straight like zombie killing people left and right and stuff like that. And that's good. That's entertaining. It's something that's different compared to what else is going on over here. You'll have the Dead Realm stuff, or whenever they were doing like the Great War stuff with Decay and all that. And then, we're about to see tomorrow night, or I guess it'd be tonight. I'm going to upload this on a Tuesday morning, so I'm recording this on a Monday, though. I'll be uploading this on Tuesday. So tonight, we're going to see the Diener Compound match. Can't wait for it. I think this is going to be hilariously awesome. But then, right after that, you'll have like a 5-star, hour-long, badass match between like Elgin and Sami Callihan. Or Moose and somebody. Like, no other show can really do what Impact Wrestling does. Impact Wrestling still, to this day, since I think the Knockout started in 2007, I want to say. But since 2007 to now, not one time during any specific year or era has Impact Wrestling ever gotten the credit due for having the best women's division, period. Period. I don't care. It's not better than anything WWE has put out. I'm sorry. It's just not. Even whenever they were really kind of hitting it and Charlotte Flair is doing her thing and Sasha Banks and Bayley, don't get me wrong. They've had good matches and everything like that. That's fine. I'm not saying that was bad. But there's no way even that stuff can touch what Impact Wrestling has ever done with their women. Alright? Even whenever Impact kind of had like a downer kind of knockouts creative thing where they had like the Maria Kanellis time period, and it was like Maria and Jade and Marty Bell and Taryn Terrell and some of that. They still put on some damn good matches every once in a while. Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell, any of those matches are great. Jade had some really good matches with Rosemary. Sienna was always pretty good too. They just kind of stalled by giving like the title to Maria, where she's not really a wrestler, and I mean she knows how to, obviously, but she's not one of those top notch, top flight knockdown, drag out type women wrestlers that we see, especially in right now. I know the roster isn't huge, but it's still the best freaking women's roster there is. Okay? And now that they're adding more, yes, thank you. The tag team division, it's sunk for a little bit, right? Coming back up. And I think once obviously the lockdowns go down, the North can kind of come back in here. Reno Scum can start wrestling again because one of the guys, Adam Thornstone with Reno Scum, is a nurse. So, obviously he's trying not to, he feels his job as a nurse is a little more important than his wrestling job. And hey, thank you for doing what you're doing out there. But once everything kind of slows down, we can get some of these tag teams back. If they do go out and maybe sign a Gallows and Anderson, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. I see them going back to Japan. I really do. Like, I just feel like they're like, okay, let's go back to Japan. Let's have some fun. But if they choose to stay in the States, I know I have heard rumors that Impact has talked to them and thrown out offers. So if they do, and they come in, another great tag team. All of a sudden now you got, again, Triple XL. I am starting to really love that tag team. Kind of reminds me of like the Natural Disasters growing up. Just that kind of two big boy guys that just can just roll people over. TJP and Fall of Baugh have really starting to kind of find their groove. The Deaners are good. Scum is good. You got the Rascals. Obviously the North. If somebody that I actually do hope that they bring in is Heath Slater. If Heath Slater comes in and team him up right up way with Rhino, I think that's a really good tag team. They always had good chemistry. That would be another good addition to the tag division. Now all of a sudden, again, Impact Wrestling has one of the better tag divisions. It's just Impact Wrestling continues to just do really good things, and they never get credit for it. I threw out this tweet a while back, and I was like, I think it's funny how, WWE's done all this stuff. They furloughed guys. They're supposed to be the company, right? Making all this money. And they're furloughing people. They're firing people. They're releasing people. And I get it. Most of the people that they're releasing are people that have kind of wanted out. I don't think Drake Maverick was one of those people that wanted out, though. I think he really liked his job. And I get some of that stuff. And I'm not even really trying to throw any shade on WWE or have any stance on that. It's just facts are, here's a company that's supposed to be the top company that should have all the money in the world, but they're furloughing people at this time. AEW's kind of sat around a little bit. I mean, yeah, they brought in like some people like Matt Hardy and Brody Lee, but they kind of hired them before they really know what was going on. Impact, I mean, not only have they not fired anybody, but the shows that they had to cancel due to this stuff, they still paid all the wrestlers for those shows that ended up not happening. They also paid the promoter of the independent wrestling promotion that was holding those shows. And they've brought in Kimberly. They've brought in Crazy Steve. They've brought in Nevaeh. They've brought in Tasha Steelz. They've re-signed Su Yung. They're making moves, man. They're doing things. They're doing things right. And for everybody that always wants to shit on Impact for the things that they've done in the past, whenever they do something good, it never gets talked about either. I mean, yeah, there's channels out there like, the Impact Lounge, Total Nonstop Impact. You got mine right here that I'm not even doing all the time anymore. If there's any other Impact channels out there, put them down in the comments. Let's get people knowing about these different Impact channels that are trying to do their best to get Impact Wrestling some traction on the internet. Because I think it's really important. Impact Wrestling is, believe it or not, a staple in the wrestling business. Period. It's been around a really long time now. It's no longer just this random company. It's a staple. It's Impact TNA is just as much of a staple as WWE, NWA, WCW, ECW. It's all the same, man. TNA Impact Wrestling is right there with it. Been around, what, since 18 years? 18 years. That's a lot. I mean, that's long enough that, you know, people that are becoming wrestlers now grew up. They watched Impact Wrestling in, you know, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th high school grades. You know, I started watching Impact, I was in high school. It was 03, 04 whenever I really started watching it. First heard about it was whenever they moved to Fox Sports. But you know, thanks to YouTube, before even Impact had their streaming service, with YouTube, I would search YouTube and I would search all the old Asylum Days pay-per-views and I would watch as much as I could. That's something about me. Like whenever I become a fan of something, I really try to dig in the history and try to learn the history of it. And that's what I did with, you know, TNA, Impact Wrestling, doing that now. But yeah, you know, it's just whenever I would watch these reviews of Double or Nothing and what they were saying about the AEW product, I'm like, you know, guys, outside of them, you know, I guess technically being owned by a bigger guy, being on a better network, because TNT is a better network than Access. I don't know if it's by a whole lot, but it's a more known commodity. Outside of some of that stuff, like, Impact does a lot of the same stuff they do, and personally, outside of, you know, not being able to go to big time arenas and look the part, I think their product is better. It just is. It just is. And it's not that AEW is bad, not at all. But I just think Impact has been doing better. You know, I just really think that they have. And mainly, like, whenever they would talk about like the Stadium Stampede match, and that match was fine, but it and I know this is kind of like stupid to say because it's one of those cinematic. It's just supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be goofy. It's supposed to be fun, but it should also still have some logic to it. And a lot of the logic was gone. You know, I know like they eventually kind of went into the ring, but I tweeted out saying, you know, why is the ring even there if you're not going to start the match in the ring? You know, have your announcements, but have it look like it starts off like a normal tag match or something. Or write it up to where it's kind of like a gauntlet war games-ish style thing. You start off with one person from each team in the ring, right? And then due to a coin flip, you know, you can go one side will always have an advantage, or you just straight up, you know, have, okay, after 2 minutes, 2 more people come in. After 2 minutes, 2 more people come in. After 2 minutes, 2 more people come in until you have all 5 from each side in the match, in the ring. Then you're allowed to go wherever you want. Right? Something like that. I just think it would have given it more structure, it would have made a little more sense. You know, I'm all for the fun and stuff, but at the same time, like, you still have to make the match make sense a little bit. That could be just me nitpicking a little too much, but, you know, it was kind of my bigger problem too with, like, Money in the Bank. You know, it still needs to be somewhat wrestling, or it's not wrestling at all whenever it comes to, like, these cinematic stuff. You know, again, they call, you know, they, like, for the WWE, whenever they did, like, the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania, they build it like a match. And it was nothing at all like a match. It was really nothing. It was like a cool vignette that maybe set something up, you know, on the Go Home show to set up a match for WrestleMania. That's kind of how that match went, right? That's why I didn't like the Firefly Funhouse match. I thought it was funny. It was very entertaining. But if you're going to sit here and try to tell me, like, hey, get ready for this wrestling match, even knowing it's going to be cinematic, I didn't care. It was not what it was billed as. But then you look at the Boneyard match. That was kind of more matchy kind of to it. You know, there was some wrestling, there was moves being made, there's things being done. That's kind of more how you do it. Again, you go back to like the Great War stuff or the final deletion stuff. It was, yeah, it was all cinematic, but it had to do with a match. It was in a ring. There was a bell to start it. There was a bell to end it. That kind of thing, right? So whenever you just have like these random things of just, hey, it's a free for all, and hey, look at all these crazy spots and all these funny things. We're gonna be goofy, and then just it's, hey, we won, right? Yeah, like, sure, yeah, it was fun. It was great, but you know, yeah, I don't know. Most of the matches were good from at Double or Nothing, but it's just the more I watched it and the more I kept thinking about it, and then I was seeing what was being said on like Twitter about it, and again the like I said, the review shows from all these different people, like it became more and more of like frustrated, and just all I could do was compare AEW to Impact, and why is it that they keep getting these free passes? And Impact, I'm not asking Impact to get free passes, but why is it that like nobody's willing to still give Impact a chance? It makes zero sense to me. They're putting out great products. They've got amazing wrestlers on this roster. They're doing things that are way more progressive than almost anybody else. Okay, not that I like that really matters in my eyes, but I know it does to a lot of other people's. And the fact that they're willing to talk about all the progressiveness stuff that AEW does. Hey, do they have a women's world heavyweight champion like Tessa? No. Okay, guess what? Impact also had, for a main event of a weekly TV show, Tessa versus Taya, two women for the main company's title belt. All right, they had a match over that belt in the main event of an episode of Impact. I don't think a word was ever talked about it. That's insane. Now, yeah, you know, some people can say, well, it's because Impact doesn't really promote it like that, or, you know, sure. I mean, I think they do some, but yeah, no, because they're not going crazy over, because, you know, a lot of people, that's a lot of things that they hate whenever WWE does it. You know, everything's, oh my god, look at the history we're making now. It's the first time of this, it's the first time of that. And they drill it, they'll say it like 100 times in a 3-hour show. Just to keep telling you, which I get the marketing behind that, and, you know, the whole purpose of that. But there's a lot of times that also drives a lot of people away whenever you do it that much. And if Impact can just maybe just, you know, and I think a lot of it too with them is they're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, because the main like dirt sheets, the main like YouTubers, the main personalities that kind of cover pro wrestling just aren't giving them the time of day. And I don't know what they need to do to get better relationships with them, but that's all free advertisement, man. If you can get somebody like a Chris Van Vliet to do more Impact stuff, a guy like Brian Alvarez, or you know, the Steven Larsons, the Coleaholics, the Wrestle Talks, all these things, you can get them to start reviewing your show, talk about your show in a positive light. I think the better off you are. You know, unfortunately, Impact is in such a bubble. You know, you've got the diehard fans like Total Nonstop Impact, like me, like a few others, that just, if you're not already an Impact fan, you won't ever have heard of any of us. Like, if you're just a casual wrestling fan that likes WWE, but you're kind of getting tired of it, you're kind of maybe wanting to find something different, Impact. Impact needs to look at the people that are wrestling fans, WWE fans, right? That are maybe starting to get into high school, junior high, high school. Now they're getting in maybe into college. They still like wrestling, but sometimes they're looking at WWE and going, I'm kind of outgrowing this a little bit. You know, because that's usually about the time where you start finding maybe some indies and you start getting into different things. And obviously by now you should definitely know that, you know, what the work is. and that you start understanding the business of pro wrestling, now you're becoming a fan of the business as a whole. You're becoming a fan of character work. You're becoming a fan of work rates. You're becoming a fan of how things are booked, together, the storylines, everything else. Now you're becoming a fan of all these different little things about pro wrestling, the ins and outs of pro wrestling. That with WWE, you're not really getting that from them. So they need somewhere else to maybe go. And that's where you start tripling in with, hey guys, that's the demographic you kind of really need to go for if you're Impact Wrestling. Hey, we're that alternative. We're that more adult content type wrestling. We're not here to bullshit you. We don't treat you like you're stupid. We try to have some fun with kayfabe type stuff. But at the end of the day, if you like good fun, blood, guts, kick-ass wrestling, badass promos, some cool cinematic stuff, some goofy fun things, some cool dark things, you're gonna like Impact Wrestling. And that's where they need to go with it, man. That's just what I really do believe. That's what I believe. Again, like I knew that this would turn into just like this huge rant. But I really do. As a longtime Impact Wrestling fan, as a guy that's wanted this company to do such big things, and I think it will. I do think it will happen. Everybody that does work there, that's really integrated into what the company is like backstage and everything, they seem to really know what they have planned coming up, and they're super excited about it. They seem super confident in it too. So they've got a plan in place, man. And Johnny Bravo was on Total Nonstop Impact and as a guest, and he even said, he's like, if you guys knew what our 5-year plan is that's coming up, like, it's gonna blow your mind. Now, do I think whatever they have planned is gonna blow our mind? No. But no, I don't think it's, oh my god, whoa, blown. But I think it's it's them basically trying to oversell and sell their product of, we've got some really cool things coming, and I think everybody's really going to enjoy it. And we've got a plan in place to really make, really take big steps for Impact and making them a bigger company and get more eyes on it. I do believe they do have plans for that. I just wish that more people would be willing to be, acceptable of it and let Impact Wrestling be Impact Wrestling, and just like it for what it is. And if it isn't your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. That's fine. We're not all supposed to like the same stuff. It's okay. And it's okay to critique some things and not make a big deal out of it. The whole OVE thing is one thing I keep coming up with a lot whenever I see a lot of people complain about it online. And it's like, at first whenever it was the OVE and Sammy show, it was mainly like they were so good at being devious and being the shitty heels that could eat losses and then turn right back around the next week and be like, no, we're still taking over everything, because they were good at that. There is a thing where you can talk. That's what a lot of heels used to do. They talked their self over while they lost in the ring to give baby faces over. Now, did they start losing maybe a little too much? Yeah, and I think Impact finally kind of picked up on that and then decided, all right, now let's turn this into a story. So now that they're turning it into a story, now they have a plan of how to lay it out, and we've started to see things change. Finally, Sammy beat them up and said, no, I'm no longer, there is no OVE, or I'm not, with you guys. And now we just saw last week Fulton turn on the Chris brothers, and he says he's done. So now we'll see what happens. Do they maybe reunite later on? Maybe. Do now everybody kind of just separate themselves and just try to go do good things? Probably. I think that's probably more likely. I think they're just going to have OVE broken up. The Chris brothers probably will keep the OVE name and do some good things in the tag division, because all they're going to do is add more depth to that tag division. Who doesn't want to see, the Chris brothers OVE at their best going against the North, going against Triple XL? I mean, those would be some amazing matches. Um, Madman Fulton can really step up, I think, and really become a really big threat for that World Heavyweight Championship. Be that monster big guy. And I see some good things for them. But some people that are big fans of theirs, and that's fine. They can be mad about it. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but when I see them just like basically try to say like Impact's terrible for this, they're so stupid. I'm like, dude, you can clearly tell they're doing a story now, so let it play out. At least now, if you're watching them lose, you know that they're losing on for a purpose. So why continue to shit on it all the time? I just don't get it. Let it play out. Impact, especially since Scott and Don have taken over, have proven they do long-term storytelling. They do it, and they do it very well. And so just chill. Give it time. They will do things. I don't think Fulton and OVE are going to any other company anytime soon. I do think Impact has basically become Ohio Championship Wrestling. And anybody that's ever worked at Pro Wrestling Revolver with Sammy is now basically working for Impact. So I think they're comfortable there. I think they want to do something with this company, make this company something. So I don't see them necessarily going anywhere. I think they're in it for the long haul, and they want to do right, and they want to make good stories. So to anybody out there that's like gets all upset about that stuff, just chill and enjoy, and just try to take it like a mystery. Well, okay, well, what's gonna happen next? Oh man, all right, well now I hope okay, all right, cool, all right, well let's see where it goes. Now look, I could totally eat crow here in like 3 weeks whenever it turns out to be nothing. They're still just losing, and maybe they leave or something. I don't know, but I just think everybody needs to chill on that type of stuff. Don't blindly just I have things that I go man, like the Ken Shamrock Sammy Callahan match at Rebellion, the way it ended, and I mean the whole match was kind of and then for it to be like kind of also a cinematic match, like this supposed to be like a no holds bar kind of match, it didn't really get intense enough, and he didn't really like go after his ankle enough to be to the point where it was just he threw on one ankle lock and then he passed out from the pain kind of thing. Like there should have been maybe more intensity there, and maybe if it wasn't during this whole pandemic stuff, maybe the wrestlers might have felt a little more comfortable to get a little more violent. So again, it's really hard to just straight up talk crap and criticize these shows right now. I can say I don't like it. I'm not going to fully criticize it because I don't know what's going on in their heads, or maybe even the producers, or Scott or Don or somebody else is sitting there going like, look guys, let's don't go too crazy. We want everybody to stay safe. We want blah blah blah. That could be. So who knows? All I know is I can't wait for this week's episode of Impact Wrestling. I can't wait for that Diener compound match. I think it's going to be tremendous. I can't wait to see who Wheels is. If that's exactly like who he's talking about, or if that was, I still couldn't quite tell if, his cousin is Wheels, but since his cousin's name is Wheels, and Cameron the ref was in a wheelchair, that's where the confusion is, or if he just lied to the North, calling him Wheels, but then he said, "Don't worry, I've got my cousin," or something like that. I've got more family members. Yeah, I couldn't quite tell on that, so I'm just gonna call his partner Wheels. This family member, his name will be Wheels Diener. I can't wait to see who that actually is gonna be. Is it gonna be like some no-namer? Is it gonna be an independent guy that we're gonna go, oh wow, good pickup? Is it gonna be somebody we know? I don't know. I just can't wait. I think it's gonna be a fun match either way. You got Michael Elgin versus Trey. I think that match is going to be a lot better than what a lot of people might be giving it credit for. But then Hernandez versus Ace Austin. That's going to be an interesting match. Really interesting match. I think we get another Kimberly versus Havoc match this week. Something, I think, maybe I'm off. I can't remember. I should have had it written down in front of me, but anyway, I just can't wait for, this week's episode of Impact. I know that I saw today on Twitter, it sounds like Taya is leaving for Nashville on Tuesday for more tapings, is kind of how she put it. So we should be getting a whole new batch. It sounds like maybe they're going to get more people coming in, which would be cool. So, and then maybe, hopefully, we'll get some more new people maybe that are allowed to wrestle yet. So who knows? I can't wait for it. I think that's also the best thing right now is since there are no spoilers, there's no fans, there's no spoilers, and everybody is in the same boat and has no clue what's about to happen week to week. Nobody has a single clue what's going to happen week to week. And that's awesome. Surprises, that's how it was back in the day, man. That's the best thing about the whole Monday Night War. It wasn't even necessarily about, because they weren't really putting on amazing matches. Yeah, sure, WCW had Jericho and Eddie Guerrero and Benoit and, all the different luchadors and stuff like that would put on the work rate matches. But nobody else was really putting on these 5-star amazing matches. It was the storytelling and it was the unpredictability back and forth. Ooh, who's going to show up where? Who's going to show up then? What's going to happen there? Oh my God, what's going to happen here? Because nobody knew, because especially once WWE went live every week, because WCW was doing it way before WWF, but once they started taking Raw live every week, Nitro's live every week, going head to head, nobody knew what either show was doing. And that is whenever wrestling was at its best. People weren't, and of course I was younger at the time. I bet if I was in high school, I could probably find some spoilers or scripts or something that, once the internet started getting popular there towards the end of that run, maybe then I could see some of that stuff. But I was a little too young. I was only junior high and high school. And I wasn't super into wrestling then as I am now. I was just your normal teenage fan. Now I'm really into it. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm really into it. I'm reading dirt sheets, all that stuff. So, it's a little different atmosphere now than it was back in the day. But, that's one thing I'm liking a whole lot with this whole empty arena matches or empty arena shows is the unpredictability of these shows. That's always so fun. But anyway, guys, I've been ranting enough. I will have out my Impact Wrestling review on Wednesday. Maybe late Tuesday night, but more than likely I'll just have it out on Wednesday. Just kind of depends on how I feel. But until then, everybody, let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys watch AEW's Double or Nothing, let me know what you guys thought about the show down in the comments below. If you guys want to, please go follow me on Twitter at Anthem of Impact. And, subscribe, hit that like button. You know the deal, what everybody else always says. So until next time, everybody, peace.